me? Can you see me?
Yes. Good morning, Pradeep.
Morning. Okay, great. Okay, good morning to everybody, and thanks for joining this session. I'd like to thank the EliteCISO platform for inviting us and to be part of this session where we can talk to you. I know these are exciting times, right? Both positive and negative, depends on how you look at it. It's a time of where we all know that most companies are now going the digital route, and so that's the positive part of it. And we've seen a lot of investment and business that IT, the whole IT domain has seen, right? That's the positive part of it. The negative part of it is that there are always elements out there who will always look at opportunities and see how they can monetize this, right? And we've seen that massive hit that's come on the cybersecurity space, primarily with sectors like BFSI, telecom. We've seen this on government public sector. And we've seen healthcare take massive hits over the last year. What's been interesting is the nature of the attacks and how they've changed, right? The primary objective of attacks itself is now evolving and changing. Earlier, they were more of a nuisance value, right? I enter your network, I pull something down, I make life a little uneasy for you for some time, right? These were more of the DDoS kind of an attacks, and sometimes people were able to exfiltrate some data and put you in bit of a soup. But what we've seen now is with the changing platform, with the kind of options of currencies, digital currencies, which are now available in the market, that now we've seen now that perpetrators of the crime are able to monetize their attacks pretty fast, and we're looking at, we've been hearing of six-figure dollar figures being given out as ransom, right? So what we've seen is that the whole platform of attack is now moved from disrupting systems and disrupting businesses and holding businesses at ransom. And with that, we've seen a massive spike in attacks, especially over the last couple of years. What's also interesting is two different kinds of attacks. One that we saw 6 months back, where the attack generally used to happen on individual companies, and we saw that this attack happened more on the MSP. And with the MSP provider going down, the attackers realize that they can exponentially multiply the end effect that they have, right? Because when you hit an MSP, you not only bring their systems down, but you also bring all the associated customers that they have also down, right? And there have been a couple of instances where attacks have also happened on utilities, and that can become very dangerous. There was one such instance in the US where the water supply department of Florida, the chemical additives in that were increased, if I recall right, almost 1:100 times, and that could have been, pretty fatal if that water supply would have reached citizens. But it was fortunate that the operators were able to see it in time and stop that attack. So the whole platform that we are now seeing that people are using, the kind of vectors that they're using to attack has changed. So for us, from a practice perspective, and for resources who are primarily protecting companies and protecting enterprises, the kind of layers that we need to add on, we need to relook at how we can add on the additional layers, right? Now, what we've seen generally is the investments that happen in terms of security are very matured when it comes from a network perspective. We also seen now that the investments have moved towards endpoint, again quite matured, and a lot of investment is happening towards the identity and access management, right? And two is that we've seen again investment happening on the application side, because most of the attacks that happen are primarily in the application side, and obviously on the data side, right? Now, when we look at the Micro Focus portfolio, this is what we look at protecting. On the network side, we offer our Oxide platform, which is primarily SIEM, been then in the market for almost close to 2 decades now. On the endpoint, we look at it more from the access, whilst We do have platforms like ZenWorks, which help you do patch management, which will help you do configuration management. But what we're going to talk to you today is primarily on NetIQ, which is a complete end-to-end identity access and access management with governance built in, right? That's what we focus on today. Application security is a practice that we are seeing is seeing tremendous growth, and with this whole shift left strategy, and India being primarily the software development hub of the world, we're seeing a lot of companies, move not only talk of protecting their application using DAST, but moving to SAST, and even in SAST, moving all the way up to the IDE level where you're trying to fix issues as code is being written. And the last, which is data itself, is where we have 45, where we look at solutions where we not only encrypt files, but also with unstructured data, we also look at emails, which are semi-structured and structured data too. So that's what we look at offering to the market, where you're able to protect your network, you're able to protect your endpoints, you're able to protect your data and your applications, which are primarily the 4 key things that we see. Whilst there would be other, depending on the kind of vertical you're in, the business you're in, and the kind of work that you do with your suppliers and your customers, you'll need to probably build in, and also the kind of deployment that we have, whether it's hybrid, whether it's on-prem or cloud, you'll need to add a few more layers. But these would be the primary 4 layers that one would need to look at, right? And the comfort that I would want to give whilst we'll go into the platform itself is that we've been here in India for over a decade now. We've more than, on the Oxide platform, we have more than 100 odd customers. On IDAM, we have more than 50 customers who are live. AppSec another 100, and Voltage close to around 20 odd customers. But what we're also seeing is that the market itself is moving from security that's managed, deployed, and managed by companies to a managed service provider, right? And that's a platform that we support very, very extensively. We have close to 8 MSP providers on the Oxide platform who pretty much manage close to around 350 odd customers. And on the AppSec side, we have close to 200 customers who are managed by MSPs, right? And we have a very strong practice from IDAM, also from an MSP perspective, and so too from a Voltage. So that's what I wanted to cover from a Micro Focus perspective. But before we dive into the whole the IDAM session, I have online Rakesh. Rakesh comes with close to around 20 years of experience in the IDAM space, very strong in terms of practice and ability to deliver large projects, right? So Rakesh, a couple of questions for you, right? Before we get into the session. We see when it comes to identity and access management, we see a lot of investment that happens for securing identities and assets internal to the organization, right? So which would be your primary systems, your users and your security applications that you have. But what we're seeing is most of the companies, and I'm sure most of the companies who are there on this call also have a huge customer base. And most of the interactions that we do now are digital. So that means that customers would need to have access to their systems to be able to transact with us, and 2 also is to manage the relationships with us, right? So there is whole need. Whilst earlier the whole customer identities were managed very rudimentarily. How do you see this change now? Because we are now talking of scale out of businesses, and it's not that customers have 400, 500 customers. We are now talking anywhere mid to large enterprises having anywhere between 1 million to a couple of 100 million customers, right? So how do you see identity and access management when we're looking at businesses move internal and becoming more, trying to cover the external focus of it?
Yeah, great, Praveen. That's a great question. We will talk more in detail about this. When we say a CIM or Customer Identity and Access Management Solution, it comes with a lot of benefit for an organization in terms of having an insight as to what driving customer to buy something for their site, but along with the features of the capability that it brings for the organization, also bring the liability or the responsibility. So CIM as a one piece of the solution is not answer to question in terms of addressing your liability towards overall your customer user base, right? You also need to have a cohesive, integrated, internal facing as well as external facing item solution. You also need to see how your item solution focusing for your customer, fulfill your privacy obligations as well, and how do you protect the data that you are acquiring as you grow in your user base or customer base. So we will talk about that in detail, and it's a great question. Thanks for asking.
Great. Second is when we talk to customers and what we hear in the industry is this whole concept of zero trust, right? When we talk about cybersecurity, there are multiple levels of control that you put. Conceptually, there's administrative level, there are physical level, and technical level, right? But the most robust ones come from the technical level. How do you see zero trust? From an architecture level, from a software level control, is it feasible for us to have a robust zero trust architecture in place, which is functional and can deliver value to companies?
Yeah, I think a very great question, Praveen. Zero Trust is a NIST framework. They basically talk about the architecture and framework where set of expectations are defined, right? Every organization have their own interpretation of Zero Trust and how do you implement it. When it comes to the identity and access management solution, the core of Zero Trust is stop trusting anyone and everyone, right? You have to verify for each and every access that they try to do. Considering the perimeters are getting disappearing, the physical perimeters are getting disappearing, we are expanding our workspace, we are getting into a work from home space, it becomes far more important for us to leverage the power of identity and access management for a zero trust solution, right? Where if your item solution can help you evaluate each and every request that a user access from different part of the world, and you create an AI-powered risk rating based, evaluation of the risk, you're pretty much able to achieve true sense zero trust, functionality. In addition to that, you can also make sure that you can logically do a micro segmentation, which your zero trust framework, emphasize on, because not just the people coming from outside, if the people are traveling within an organization, try to access different, assets of the organization, how can you make sure that only the people who are authorized to use the particular resource are provided, right? So micro segmentation can also provide. We'll talk about that in detail as well as part of this topic. And thanks for asking the question.
Great. My last question to you is a little bit futuristic, but I think it's going to come in as part of in the mainstream of the way we work and offer services to our customers. Is the announcement that we just heard as part of the budget, where the government of India is talking of offering digital currency from the government, right? Now with the government pretty much underwriting digital currency, it's going to see massive acceptance, right? What do you see the role of IAM in an economy where digital currency becomes a norm?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And since our finance minister declared digital currency as a norm going forward, another 1 or 2 years, we'll be seeing RBI launching their own. They are working on a wholesale aspect of digital currency today. Very soon, they will be getting into the retail aspect of it. And we are one of the 80 countries who are into advanced stage of working on digital currency. This is little different than what you see as a cryptocurrency, right? So cryptocurrency is not governed by any central bank, whereas digital currency is what being governed by central bank of a particular organization. This is going to be a big disruptor for the entire IT landscape. Think about when it comes to retail, end users are using digital currency to do the transaction. Your retail sector, your BFSI sector, almost like all the sectors have to adopt to it. And it is actually convertible from a digital currency to a physical currency. So it's a one-on-one. There is no increase in the price for the digital currency. So it's completely dynamic game change. Only 3 countries today who have successfully implemented digital currency. And considering the entire wealth of the organization is digital, the security becomes far more important, not only from internal threat, but for cross-country threat as well. And as in the case of consumer information, or creating a micro segmentation or zero trust functionality, identity and access management has a very strong and important role to play. It all depends upon how they roll out this digital currency, because there are 2 ways of doing it. One is token based, other one is account based. So, but in either case, IDEM will be having a very strong, responsibility to secure the digital currency. We'll talk about that as well in this session today, Praveer.
All right.
And that was a good question again.
Sure. So I'll now hand it over to you, Rakesh, if you can take us through your presentation. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Praveen, if you can confirm, please. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, we can.
So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this workshop. Very excited and thrilled about it. We're going to talk about 3 different topics, which Praveen did talk about that in our conversation. But believe you me, I'm so tightly time compressed that each topic that we're going to talk about need at least 2 to 3 hours of workshop to get a deep dive on it. So my request, we'll be covering on from very top level. In case there are any detailed conversation required on this topic, I and my team will be more than happy to be part of that conversation. Please do let me know in case required. I have been joined by my colleague, Mr. Virender Negi, who is a pre-sales consultant nationally for IDEM in Micro Focus. And he will be talking about how we, as a Micro Focus from an IDEM offering perspective, cover different aspects of whether it's a CIM or privacy, zero trust, or a digital currency, that we spoke about. So great, let's start this conversation. As today's agenda, I'm sure it must have been clear based on my conversation with Praveen as well. We are first going to talk about CIM, privacy, and how it is important, not only from a customer perspective, but as well as from the organization perspective as well. When it comes to zero trust, we'll talk about how IDEM solution can help you in implementing a zero trust solution. What is the importance of zero trust solution, not only from a user perspective or from the crown gel that you're going to protect, right? In subsequent part of the session, we are going to touch upon the most important topic, which is digital currency. It's going to be a biggest, disruptor in the market, and how important it is for central bank or intermediate bank or end user to be cognizant about the security aspect of digital security. Right? Then at the end of, as I said, I will have Virender, who will be talking about how Micro Focus NetIQ product line cover different aspects of the top 3 topics that we have spoken. Right? That being said, let's quickly go to next topic, or the first one. So for any organization, what matter most are their customers, right? Because they are the one who drive the business, and if we cannot, fulfill their expectation, their requirement, we are not going to be as successful as we aspire to be, right? So let's talk about them. Let's talk about 2 different very important aspects of it: security and the privacy for end user or customers that we have, right? So building cyber resilience in today's environment with CIM require a clear understanding of both sides of the opportunities, right? The internal facing compliance, regulatory, market, and revenue growth. The consumer facing, which is like trust, that my data is protected and the company is not sharing it inappropriately. That trust has to be built with the customer. Right? So customer identity and access management solution build resilience to protect, detect, evolve, and intelligently adapt to it. Coming to the next topic, how do we see the value versus the responsibilities? As I've been very vocal in my subsequent slide, uh, any organization who is implementing CIM solution, they get value out of the CIM solution, but they also have to carry to a responsibility. For example, you get your customer loyalty, you work on the retention of it, you get a better market understanding by having a CIM solution in place. But at the same time, you also need to know exactly what customer data that you're currently capturing it. How do you make sure that the data is, whether it's a structure or unstructured, it is governed. You have a close monitoring and control on top of the data that you have from the customer. How do you track who have access to that data is also very important. And how do you meet the compliance requirement? If your compliance posture is, at the wrong side of it, the customer may not, trust you, and you lose the customer trust. That become very important, right? So while we take the value out of the CIM, we also have to focus about our responsibility towards the customer whose data we are storing or capturing, right? At the same time, when we look at the Gartner's angle, right, how does the Gartner see this entire data? So in this diagram, you see the blue, a dark blue is a core of CIM functionality, which need to be leveraged by entity and access management consumers or customers, right? The light gray area that you see is basically immature and technology which is picking up, and this should be soon playing a very important role as part of the CIM solution, right? The blue bullet that you see in the diagram, it's basically an adjacent technology which need to be leveraged along with CIM solution to make it more robust solution for the customer. Light blue are the non-item adjacent technology, which typically are not part of your item solution, but you should be taking the advantage of that. Micro Focus cyber risk offering, we have end-to-end offering which can provide you the entire coverage in terms of the CIM capability, and we are in line with what Gartner thought process are. So coming to the next one, this is what I spoke about, right? So there are two aspects of customer entity and the workforce based identity, right? Customer focused IAM systems are the different from its traditional IAM workforce, right? Which is inward facing. The workforce IAM look inward, so they typically see, manage your employees or business partners. They are more of a B2E or B2B kind of solution where they look into the employees, manage their employee access, their onboarding process, and so on and so forth. The goal of workflows IAM is to reduce the risk and the cost associated with the onboarding, offboarding of the employees, partners, suppliers, and so on and so forth. While the purpose of customer IAM, is to help drive growth, revenue by leveraging entity data to acquire and retain the customer. So you see two different objective of inward-facing IAM solution and customer IAM solution. Leading organizations are coming to us and they're talking about the CIM platform. A lot of organizations do not realize that they have to be. It has to be a complete IAM solution, just not be social onboarding or just talking about the speed at which customer can access the data from an organization, right? So let's talk about how does this entire solution look like from a different persona based, right? And how different roles in an organization, CXO's role in an organization look into this solution, from a procurement or, acquiring perspective, right? So there are you have key roles who play a very important perspective for CIM or internal item solution. We have a CISO, we have a CIO. They play a very important role in the organization from security perspective. We have CPO or CDO, data privacy officer or compliance chief privacy officer, or we have a chief marketing officer, or we have a customer success manager. They pretty much look at this entire thing from a different perspective, and they are right in their own perspective, right? Broadly, if we convert this, it fall into three different categories, right? One is, how do you get customer faster? How do you acquire customer faster, right? So give customer the choice of using social integration, social registration, reduce the friction, right, in terms of the account registration and onboarding, deliver seamless authentication experience by eliminating maybe passwordless authentication, or more device-based authentication, right? Uh, Use the lighter amount of security as appropriate at each stage. So you do not want to burden the end user in terms of heavy security requirement. Just ask the relevant or challenge the user with the security exactly when it is needed, not at the beginning of it. The other one is, how do you typically use the omni-channel experience across modality to influence the customers, which is like, how do you deliver seamless customer journey across the shopping channels by building a secure consumer journey through a wider range of out-of-box authentication options, right? So that also become very important. Protecting your consumer build trust, right? So that also become very important, because until unless customer do not know how are you consuming your information that they share with you, what is your compliance posture today, it becomes far more important. And if customer do not trust you, believe me, they will not going to come back to you, or you will lose the customer in a longer run. So how do you build a loyalty with the customer is become far more important from that perspective, CM perspective. uh, Going quickly to what sort of question that you've been asking, or uh, the CIOs, the CMOs, what sort of question that will have in their mind in terms of, evaluating IDAM product or CIM product, or driving this entire CIM, portfolio in their organization. Like maybe CIO will be more interested in revenue growth, and also will be very interested in knowing how, what is the personalization and legal trust that a particular organization is exposing to the customer. CMO certainly will be more interested towards omnichannel experience for the customer as well. CISO will certainly be looking into how to build a trust and how to protect the customer information that they have it. And consumer, CSM, customer success manager, will certainly be very interested in how do we acquire, so the overall onboarding process for the customer, how fast it is, right? So if you see, different role in organization have a different expectation from a CM service. It's not just the 3 or 4 traditional use cases that we used to live with so far on the CM. How fast you can onboard, compliance management to some extent, and make sure that you have a light UI person can travel, overall user experience. There are far more obligations that also an organization had to fulfill as part of the CM solution. So I'm quickly going back to what we have seen, Ali, in terms of our offering, because from a CIM perspective, the cross-pillar capability that we offer as a cyber risk organization is far more important, and it gives you a cohesive, integrated solution to not only get the best value out of your CIM solution, but also how to meet your obligation expectation from the security and privacy perspective. So we have, starting from top, we have a data security solution which help you discover the data, which help you prioritize the security based on the sensitivity of the information, right? And it can identify the valuable asset in terms of the customer information and employee information. And solution can help you to, securing data while it is on the fly or at the rest, right? Similarly, moving down, we have a NetIQ solution, which is a core of nervous system, which is purely based on entity-based solution. It help you identify, the core users, identify your internal user, what sort of information that they can access from a customer's perspective. How do you make sure the multiple source of truth can be integrated to, to onboard different set of users, whether it's a, B2B or B2E we spoke about earlier. Then you go to the 45, which is the top right. It's an application security, which help you make sure what application has been built. Security is being enforced from a design perspective, not as an afterthought. Coming back to the bottom is ArcSight solution, which is a SIM solution. it continuously monitors different activity that goes on in your organization and respond to any security threat, in terms of generating the right event and notifying the right set of people. In the middle, we have an interset, which provide an organization with its user entity and behavior analytics to mitigate both inside and outside of threat. And with these pillars in mind, now let's talk about identity, which can power your privacy requirement. That becomes far more important aspect from a CIM perspective. And that's where we have a concept called purpose-based access management, not a role-based access management. That being said, when you look at entity management solution and you look at the contextual digital entity and purpose-based access management solution, the functionality that we acquire as part of the solutions are like personalization, frictionless customer experience, which is more mapped to a CM solution, and then security privacy requirement is like how do you build a trust and ethical use cases with the customer, enable privacy compliance that customer is looking for, and manage consumer in the context of their specific interaction and understanding of the consumer information. So the combination of the solution give you the goals that you see on the right side, which is actually expected from what you see in the left side, right? Coming to data subject, so your entire IDEM solution has to be, a lot of vendors start talking about, different aspect of CIM solution. The important of knowing who the consumer is it's critical of your CIM solution, right? So when you say who is trying to attempt what resources, right? Where are the resources located, or where are the consumer located, right? What are the what they normally located, like they're located now and where they're supposed to be there, right? So these are the few questions that you basically leverage to identify the data, which is the core of the subject, and you try to answer this question, right? Why, right? And when it goes to the next level, which we call data subject, which is the center of the overall the CIM relationship. It is a user centric. So data subject become your user. Data subject, it is an aspect of digital entity which is interacting with more and more system for a specific purpose, right? And this is what we call a purpose-based entity and access management solution, where data subject, if you try to access any other resource, he has to define the purpose for that access, right? Let's say he's trying to access a device, he need to define the purpose for that device. Access, he need to define the qualification for it. So all this, customer centric, which is a data subject for us, it all revolves around that, right? How do you onboard data, data subject, which is a user, and what is the expectation in terms of the purpose? Why do you want to, onboard this user? What are the behavior expected from this subject? So this is not just from an IDEM for CIM perspective, but IDEM for the internal user as well. Right. So going to the next slide quickly. When you have the contextualized access, 360-degree relationship is far more important, right? So the bottom line that you see, this is basically what we have leveraged from a GDPR, and this personal data shall be collected for a specific explicit and legitimate purpose. It's pretty much for, relevant for any privacy law that you see across India, whether it's in India, whether it's in California, whether it's Singapore, privacy law. So through our exploration of context and data subject, right, we have established a link between a person and a purpose, right? We can now expand on the relationship between a person purpose to include an enforcement aspect to it, right? Which is the overall CIM story from a lens of contextual access, right? The code the code that we have seen, it's basically a GDPR code, pretty much applicable for all the privacy that you see come across. In the other word, when we say person, purpose, person is a data subject, person, purpose, and the enforcement, they all need to be working together. to ensure secure access and that the personal data that is collected is used which is intended for, right? For what intent you have captured the data. So from another aspect, right? When we have an IDEM solution which is more data centric, right? The coverage of overall privacy is very limited. It basically data discovery and data security. It miss out most aspect of your access management and entity management, right? When the same aspect is from an entity management or IAM solution perspective, it miss out majorly on data part or data security part or to be a large extent the privacy aspect of it, right? So that's a traditional CIM solution we see in the market today, right? Where they don't talk about the privacy aspect, they don't talk about analytics, they don't talk about data, customer data discovery, data security, and you have to leverage additional solution for that. Coming to the privacy-centric CIM solution that we talk about, which is the red box that you see it covers the entire aspect of the CIM which is expected, right? It just help you harness the customer data. It help you, increase the revenue and also help you increase the retention of the customer, while making sure that you meet the security and privacy requirement as well. From the organization perspective. So these are the 4 different pillars of our CIM solution that we are offered today. If you look at this, is divided into 4 different parts, right? We have an access management. There are core functionality and access management. From a CIM perspective, while we talk about multiple subjects of access management, we also, as I spoke earlier, introduce something called purpose-based access control, where it's not just a role, but you have to define why a person needs to have an access to a particular infrastructure or assets, right? When it comes to the entity management, the privacy and consent management become far more important. Self-service and data subject right become far more important. You typically see the yellow boxes, which are more traditionally available as part of the CIM or IDAM solution, but the privacy angle brings in the concept like concept management, purpose-based access management solution, and self-service data subject right management, like the right to revoke the right to forgotten kind of functionality that is required from a privacy perspective. When it comes to data, that is another important pillar of your CIM solution. Record of processing becomes far more important, right? From a privacy perspective, and you need to have a policy which can stitch all this together and bring in an analytics and machine learning aspect to it, so to make sure that it's real time enforce the policy across the CIM solution, right? When it comes to the overall architecture of CIM-centric IAM solution, it starts with the bottom 4 different pillars. We have access, identity, data, and policy, which we spoke about in the last one. Policy is more towards enforcement. Data help you purpose-based data retention. So do you need a data to be retained, and you have to define the purpose for this. Then you have a purpose-based access control. Governance, analytics, personal information management system, and purpose. The core of it is spread across all the 4 pillars, and it help you, achieve the privacy along with the CIM functionalities. I'll move to the next topic now, which is again a very important, the zero trust. Zero trust-based system are, trust-based systems, to be very frank, is very core to our culture. It's practically impossible to imagine that civilization can exist across globe without a trust. But in the trust-based culture, the biggest casualty that we have is security, right? Because the moment you start trusting, you stop monitoring the things, right? The zero trust is a very contrary to what human value system is. It's not a technology solution. It's a NIST framework or architecture that being published by NIST, and it has multiple expectations from a organization to who's implementing a zero trust solution to meet, right? In a nutshell, I can say zero trust is more of a collection of concepts and idea to minimize uncertainty and enforcing accurate, least privilege per request access decisions in information system and services in the face of network viewed as compromised, right? So let's look at how the zero trust solution should look like and what are the key expectations. Just quick, in terms of the data of the challenges organizations are facing. In 2020, around 28% of the organization had some sort of, ransomware attack. I'll just leave it for reading. These are all reports that we have got from, different OEMs who have published time to time. So it's a collaboration. It's basically a combined view in terms of how the threats are and how important it is for us to stop trusting and evaluating and reviewing all the questions from a zero trust perspective. So, why do we need a cyber resilience? I think I should not be even talking about that, but let's quickly refresh this. If an organization say that they are under attack, they will certainly be compromised one day or the day, right? The resilience is certainly how do you withstand the attack and continue to provide a critical functionality. But when you build a resilience, it should not be built in. It should be built. It should be built in, not tracked on, right? So your resilience should be inward. You should be able to respond to the compromise and continue working it by having the right control to mitigate the risk of compromise that may happen. So when we look at, this is based on the 2021 Zero Trust Market Dynamics Survey that was conducted, and there are a few data that we have seen. Almost like 68% people said yes, zero trust need to be there as part of the organization, and 52% said it is a proactive than a traditional approach, so it need to be looked into it. If you look at identity and access management, the first step. So when people were asked, or organization were asked, what is your strategy in terms of what should be the first step for you to step towards zero trust compliance? And almost 43% people have responded that they should look into an identity and access management solution, right? When it comes to the time frame, pretty much 40% of people have said within 0 to 3 months they should be adopting a zero trust based solution in their organization. So that actually shows how important a zero trust based solution is for an organization, and how seriously the organizations are looking into it in terms of adopting it, and which technology or domain from a cybersecurity perspective is it critical for an organization to kickstart their zero trust journey.
Hi Rakesh, sorry to interrupt. We have just 1 more minute left for your session. Then we have to field questions. Please go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sure. So, looking into the zero trust framework, I'll quickly cover this. I think I'm not able to meet the timeline here, but these are the few zero trust architecture expectations that we have. Least privilege, which is important from an access management perspective. How do you manage the micro segmentation? So when we say micro segmentation, how do you make sure that your distributed and management controls are in place? If one person try to access resources from other segmentation, how do you make sure that controls are in place on that? Multi-factor authentication, again, expectations from an architecture perspective. It actually help you get a greater assurance based on the current risk and state. API control is also another important aspect, which IDEM solution, Micro Focus offer have the solution on that. Adaptive, again, it should not be static, it should be adaptive and change with the time. Dynamically responding to the current state in the context of current environment and past activity is very important. So these are the key pillars of zero trust. I will quickly go to digital currency. Again, digital currency, what we see today, it's expected to be in India by RBI by 2022-23. They are already working on wholesale market, but they still have to come out with a retail aspect of the digital currency. It's basically an electronic record of the rupees that you carry today. It should be exchangeable on a 100% conversion. There are a few benefits that you get out of it. So liquidity is very fast, right? Acceptance, easy of transaction, and anonymity of the speed is what you get out of the digital currency. There are already 80 countries who are working on it, and there are 3 countries who have already gone the solution live. Like Sand Dollar is from Bahamas, and Bangkok. We have Cambodia from Bangkok from Cambodia, and Bcash from Eastern Caribbean. I think Bcash was down for some time in the month of January because of some infrastructure issues. So that actually proves that even though digital currency is on the way, its availability and security is far more important. There are 2 different approaches to digital currency. One is wholesale versus retail, which is in terms of how do you distribute digital currency and who can use it. And then the second is the overall infrastructure, whether it has going to be a PKI token-based solution or it can be a account-based solution where a person have a bank account in the CBS, right, central bank, and from there he can drive the digital currency. When it comes to security of digital currency, right, it's not different than what we see in our conventional payment system or online banking system or other financial attack. This system will be, the digital currency will be under severe threat from multiple organization, from phishing attack, malware attack. It also will be target by a different country in terms of collapsing the financial infrastructure of enemy country, right? So if you look at the key threats that we have on a CBSE, right? Credential theft and loss. Identity and access management system has a very strong play here in terms of making sure your entities are not lost. The other important aspect is system integration and double spending. So it actually makes sure that your end-to-end transaction is correct. It is not broken, and it can be verified. That's where your identity and access management solution comes into picture in terms of making sure integrity of the entire transaction end to end. User and privilege role, this again becomes far more important because the biggest threat also comes from insiders, right? Your power user, and that's where your privilege solution play a very important role in terms of making sure that your power users are not only monitored but they are accountable as well. Quantum computing is going to be a big disruptor as well. It will define how the major organization store, process the data, and how do they encrypt the data. It's going to change the way digital currency being manipulated or managed across the country. And identity and access management role in terms of making sure data security comes into picture and user access to data comes in place. And it's IDAM who need to drive this. Privacy, we have spoken so far on multiple aspects. It is the power of data governance from an IDAM perspective, which help make sure that user have an access to the right user have an access to right data.
Rakeshji, I'm so sorry. I know it's a very interesting topic and we can go for hours talking about it. But we are now kind of touching 12 o'clock and we have to stop here, else we will not be able to take any questions. I still think there are a couple of very interesting questions. So Neeraj, do you want to pick any 2 questions out of it? Or Rakeshji, if you can see the interface, if you can go to the question and pick whatever you like.
Just give me a minute. I'm just trying to fix this. I don't see questions are separated.
Okay, Rakesh, in the interest of time, let me read it for you. Mr. Jignesh Solanki asked, how do we cover the identity profiling with legacy solution which provide you very less technical assistance in terms of data availability?
Sorry, I missed that question. Can you repeat again? I'm just trying to adjust my screen. I don't. Yeah.
How do we cover the identity profiling with legacy solution which provide you very less technical assistance in terms of data availability.
Okay, so when it comes to the legacy system, it is far more important for organization to make sure the item product that they are selecting it has a backward compatibility as well. In addition to the latest technology that we see in the market, whether cloud, whether it's a SaaS model, and so on and so forth. When it comes to the data, if your item solution can integrate with your legacy applications, the data is stored in that, it can work with it. Micro Focus does provide, support for your mainframes and AS400 based application as well, and they can be out of box integrated. But when it comes to, ease of access or with a limited intervention, I think it is more of a techno-process solution that need to be implemented in an organization. It is very specific to an organization in terms of the problem state. I hope I was able to answer the question.
Great, sounds good. Let's take one more question, Neeraj. Can you read it out for
Sure.
Mr. Rakesh?
Okay. Which is the best practice to find and stop zero-day attack? Anil asks.
Sorry, zero data?
Zero-day attack.
What is the
best practice to stop zero-day attack?
Okay, so I think zero-day attack, it's more from an overall cybersecurity perspective. There are multiple approaches to it. In terms of signature-based was the older one, where used to see the signature of the data that being processed or managed by the organization. Then we came into a behavioral-based, identification and finding out if there are a compromise happening in the system or not, right? I think we do not have a one-stick solution which says this is the best one for zero-day attack. Zero-day attack are going to be there. As far as the system to be resilient, you have to make sure that your systems can come back if attack happens, and they can how soon that they can be on operation, right? They can start serving the customer. That is more important. You have to make sure that you're all the you are up to date in terms of the patching the system. You have the right set of policy, continuous policy twinning on the SIM solution is very important. Your data security, backup procedures, how do you recover your backup, restore the backup and come on action is also very important. So I think it's not a one-stick solution to say, that you can, by implementing one control, you can avoid a zero-day attack. It has to be a collaborative, cybersecurity strategy that an organization need to have for that.
Great, sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Rakesh ji. 12:03, guys. Let's quickly cover the last couple of bits. So, as during the session, as we started, I had explained about the LinkedIn contest. I'm putting it again one more time on the screen. All you got to do is you have to share the learning from the session on LinkedIn, take the URL of the post and submit it as part of the Google form. The Google form was already posted and a lot of people have already started to submit the findings or submit the post that they have done. I'm not sure, last time also some people posted their LinkedIn profile. We do not need your LinkedIn profile. What we need, the contest is about sharing your learnings from the session. Okay, so post your learning and take the URL, submit it as part of the Google form, which was already posted on the chat. People have got access to it, I can see, so that we have already got 13 responses. Okay, guys, now as part of the post, you also have to upload the participation certificate that looks something like this. Okay, now how do you get the certificate? For downloading the certificate, what you got to do is go to EliteCISOs website, click on events, click on upcoming events, and then click on CP certificate. When you click on CP certificate, this will take you to a different Google form. Put your email address over here, put your full name, And then the password to download the certificate is very interesting. Very interesting. Why? Because today on 10th February 1996, Deep Blue had defeated Kasparov. That's the significance of today's date, and that's where we have taken the secret for today's certificate. So the password to download the certificate is Deep Blue. Okay, all small case, no all small case and no space between Deep Blue. Okay, once you enter Deep Blue, you will get a certificate like this over your email. Okay, so download that certificate, put it as part of your LinkedIn post, and then we will put you in a contest for Apple AirPods. Okay, guys. And the last time or last date to submit your certificate is by Sunday, or submit your post is by Sunday evening. Okay, this coming Sunday evening, you are supposed to complete your LinkedIn post. We are giving you enough time to grasp the knowledge that you have gathered, articulate it in a manner so that you can post it on LinkedIn. Great. Now the last thing that we all are waiting for is a Wheel of Fortune. I had explained in the beginning there are two sections for the Wheel of Fortune today. One is that everybody who registered is part of this Wheel of Fortune. We have got two giveaways for it, two number of giveaways. So smart watch is what we are giving, and then we will do another a Wheel of Fortune, and that is only for the people who liked the LinkedIn post that we had done to announce our session with Microfocus. Okay, guys, if your name comes, go to the chat and say yes, you are there, and then we will send a smartwatch to you. Neeraj, would you be please kind enough to monitor the chat, and if somebody says yes when their name comes, please let me know.
Sure.
Great. I am spinning it now. Good luck, guys. So this is for the first one. First smartwatch. We have total 5 smartwatch giveaways today. So the first one is Mr. Sarvanan. So if Mr. Sarvanan, you are there, go to the chat, or whatever interface you see, chat or questions, say yes, you are there. And Neeraj, can you check if somebody said yes, or if Mr. Sarvanan is there in the session?
I can check Mr. Sarvanan, but he hasn't said yes as of now.
Okay, we are moving to the next one now. So the first one is gone. If Mr. Sarvanan is not there, we are not spinning it again for the first one. Okay, so this is for the second one now. I'm spinning it now, guys. And for the second watch, the lucky winner is Dr. Ram Kumar, my very good friend and member of Bangalore chapter. Dr. Ram attend most of our sessions. I'm sure he might be there.
Yes, he's there.
Awesome. Congrats, Dr. Ram. Send me your address and we will ship the smartwatch to you. Okay, so this is the for all the people who registered. Now I'm going to delete this entire list. I am going to paste only people who liked our LinkedIn post. Okay, so these are the 60 people or 57 people here. The Wheel of Fortune looks much better now. 12:09. We said that we will run this session by 12:10. 12:10. So let me quickly get to this part. Okay, I'm spinning it now. And this is for the third watch. The third watch goes to Mr. Amit Ghodekar. Looks like Amit Ghodekar. Yeah, Amit Ghodekar, my very good friend from Mumbai chapter. Amit bhai, congrats. Neeraj, can you see if Mr. Amit is there?
Amit is there, yes.
Awesome. Congrats, Amit. Send me your address over WhatsApp, and then we'll send the watch over to you. Now, this is for the fourth one. And the fourth watch goes to Mr. Virendra Negi. I guess.
Oh my
Mr.
God.
Virendra Negi, congratulations. If you are there, go to the chat and say yes. Neeraj, please check if somebody is saying yes. Mr. Virendra is saying
So,
yes or not.
Virendra is micro focused. Do you want to? Is it okay to give them?
Yeah, why not? Why not? He went
Okay.
ahead and liked it. I might have missed removing Virendra because I had removed all the micro focus guys. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So the next one is the fifth one and the last one. We are spinning it now. I can't see chat, so that's why I'm a little blind on this one. Next time we'll use something else, Microsoft Teams or Zoom. Yeah. Okay. Last one is Raman Pillai from Bangalore chapter. Raman bhai, if you are there, go to the chat and say yes, you are there. No, Neeraj.
No,
Okay, doesn't matter.
received.
Okay, so all the watches are gone now. Great. So 12:11. We ran 1 minute over than predicted. Great. Thank you everyone for taking out time and joining it. One last thing that I wanted to mention was, since you are already there on EliteCISOs website to claim your CP certificate, you might want to register for Saturday session. Okay, this is not on Thursday. This is on Saturday, and it is non-technical, non-security session. We are going to talk about evidence-based investing, and it is cocktails and conversations. So you have to bring either a hard drink or a soft drink, whatever you like, and then join this session. I'm sure it is going to be a different experience, not the typical Thursday session that we do. Okay, and then next Thursday, as we conduct our webinars 11 o'clock Thursday every week. So for next week, we have a session with Thales and Beyond Trust. The topic is going to be very interesting around MFA and PAM solutions. So go ahead, guys, register for it. Registrations are open. With this, thank you very much, Micro Focus team. Thank you very much, all the participants. Really appreciate you guys taking out time and joining us today. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. Hope the session was informative for you all. And we'll get in touch with you. We'll be sharing the presentation recording with you very soon.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Session ends here. We'll close the session for all. Good day.